The Holy Knight armor set, we've got our first look at it here, and when it actually procs in combat, you're going to be bathed in sanctified holy light that's going to deal AoE damage to everybody in the vicinity. Now, this is most certainly going to be a Helix pack, by the way, and it follows the trend of previous and officially announced armor sets where you have the option of 2 different choices within the pack itself. And in this case, we've got the Fallen and the Blessed options here, which offer you a couple subtle changes, which I'll explain in full in a moment, because this preview is only possible thanks to Peda and Ibsarp, who have found it in the game files, and that means we don't yet have an official announcement date for its release, but expect this to arrive post-launch of the Ragnarok DLC, which arrives on March the 10th. Now let's first start with the Blessed armor set, and it's described as probably being blessed by the High One, which I reckon is King Arthur, and I'll explain why I think that when we chat about the mount in just a moment. And I've got to say, the armor set itself does look very angelic, particularly the Knight Helm, and it kind of looks like Eivor's transformed into some sort of blue elven holy warlord, which I think a few of you may like, and a few of you may also not. However, the details and the patterns across the armor set are quite eye-catching, and I can appreciate that. Even though it's not really designed for me, I'm not going to pick it up, and that's mainly because there's just a little bit too much gold for me again on this particular set. But stat-wise, and this is where, in my opinion, things do go a little bit south, as you only pick up an increase in plus 15 health when it's actually equipped, on top of it being bathed in holy light, which is continual, but there isn't a consistent animation effect I could see in game. No holy aura following you around is what I kind of mean, but it still gives you a blanket reduction in 15% less damage taken generally when you do equip this whole set. Now, no question, it is a tanking armor set in its entirety, and you can kind of decide if that works for you or not. For me personally, as I've already mentioned, it absolutely does not. Now, the Blessed armor set aside, and it's described as having a dark force emanating from it, believed to be cursed, and noting that it probably belonged to a fallen angel. But nothing changes too drastically on the stats, though instead of the health buff, we pick up a plus 15 armor bonus, which is still pretty poor in my opinion, but you could argue you don't want your best armor sets and abilities in the Helix store, so I think that's a good thing and a positive in my eyes. Aesthetically though, it does incorporate a lot more red and gold tones. It's pretty much a like for like of its fallen counterpart, but red and black instead of the blue. And as for reskins on these, I've already said it before and I'm going to say it again, I absolutely suck at identifying reskins, so if you can see something here that I can't, do let everybody know down below in the comments, as we do have quite a lot of knight armor sets in game already, so it would be good to identify what's unique and what isn't. And by the way, I am actually running a free Dawn of Ragnarok DLC giveaway. You just need to be a subscriber of the channel, and the link to enter is in the pinned comments down below. So good luck. Now, moving on to the weapons, this pack comes with 2. We've got the 2-handed greatsword called the Sword of the Damned, as well as the Shield of the Blessed, which are tapping into both the cursed and the holy aspect of each armor set we've just broken down. However, this is where you're going to see your main bread and butter holy animation effects in game, as the Sword of the Damned generates sanctified holy light on the ground when you smash down a light finisher that ends up doing quite a lot of AoE damage, and if you'll notice, when it is actually triggered, it spawns a holy cross briefly in the air before exploding outwards and dissipating, which I think is a pretty bold looking animation, to be honest with you. I can't actually recall seeing anything similar from a weapon, so even though it doesn't have too much utility, it's a tick on the visuals. But that being said, on the visuals there are more gold inflections across the sword and more stencil designs embossed into the blade to actually complement the whole aesthetic of the set. The hilt is also designed around angel wings, which I think is a nice touch, and the devil's in the details, I say, and it certainly is here. Now, as for the Shield of the Blessed, you're going to be able to release a wave of light that deals AoE damage after you block 5 times, and even if you run with shields in game and you want to purchase this set, I don't actually think it's worth equipping, to be honest with you, and that's because the AoE holy light damage doesn't have a significant impact on gameplay, and 5 blocks to trigger it with a shield is quite cumbersome in itself during gameplay. The only benefit I would say is it doesn't seem to have any sort of cooldown, so there is that, and as far as heavy shields go, it doesn't look too shabby visually for a cursed angel aesthetic. Now, moving on to the mount, it's called the Cath Palug, and as always, apologies for the absolute dire pronunciation, I know I suck, but on first glance I thought this was actually a reskin of the recent Lunar Tiger mount. It certainly does have an Asian look and feel to it in my opinion, but historically the Cath Palug was a monstrous cat that terrorized the south of England, which stems from a Welsh legend. It was hunted and killed by King Arthur's half-brother Sir Kay, who was actually part of the Knights of the Round Table, which is why I think this is what this set is slightly paying homage to. Now again, it isn't the mount for me specifically, but I can appreciate the design and detail, and the same goes for the Raven skin. It's called the Iron Claws, and it's described as being red coloured alloy that has the ability to rip the heads off enemies with its sharp claws, which is fair enough. It's got a nice colour, to be fair. But it doesn't stop there, because Pedder and Ibsarp have been hard at work for us again. They've found the new vampire weapons and all of the Dawn of Ragnarok armor sets. So do click the subscribe button so you can be the first to know what that's all about when those videos drop in the next few days. And a like on this video would be greatly appreciated. It really helps me out, so thank you very much. As always, big thanks to Pedder and Ibsarp again for bringing us this first look. And I will catch you in the vampire weapons video very soon if it's not already up on your screen right now. As usual, coffee's on me.